All right, welcome in. Just got done watching Creighton take down Oregon in double overtime. Game of the tournament, to say the least. My God, this Oregon team, I don't even know, no disrespect to the rest of the guys on the roster, but it was a two-man team. I mean, Dante and Couisnard were insane. They ended up scoring 60. They scored 60 of 73 points for Oregon. Oregon had 4 guys score, and 2 of them had 60. Couisnard with 32, Dante with 28. He had 20 rebounds too. Just an absurd team. And then on the Creighton side, it was obviously the big four of Creighton carried them through, get the win. Shireman and Ashworth were kind of the heroes, both of whom took just bonkers shots on the baseline. Ashworth hits the corner of the backboard. Shireman had one shot late in regulation. It was like a floater running. He was like running into the cheerleaders as the ball hit the rim because his momentum was carrying him baseline. I don't know, that just stood with me. Like, both of those guys, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then, like, 2 seconds later, they're both making hero plays and pushing it into overtime, and Creighton holds on for the win. What a game. What a fun game. This Creighton team they are, when they're making shots, they look like they're unstoppable. And this is a massive win, obviously, because it's in the NCAA tournament, and they're moving on to the Sweet 16, but it's a massive win. If this was a regular season game, I would be very excited about what I saw from Creighton because they were not shooting well. They were shooting horrendously for most of the game. And through the years with Creighton, the feeling I've had about Creighton basketball is they are a make shots team, which is to say when they are hot, they look great. When they're not hot, they just kind of look at the bench like, we don't know, coach. Maybe tonight's not our night. And to see Creighton battle through it, to see Kalkbrenner kind of, I don't want to say getting owned by Dante, but Dante's a fucking monster and he's going toe to toe with Kalkbrenner, and Kalkbrenner is just kind of staying calm, cool, and collected. He had 5 blocks was still playing great help side defense, was still grabbing a ton of rebounds, was not getting caught up too much in the one-on-one matchup, was letting his team go up against Oregon's 2 dudes who were both superheroes. Couisnard is hilarious to me, by the way. This guy is a 5th year, 6th year, 7th year. What even are seniors anymore in college basketball? He's a 5th year, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was wrong. He's a 6th year. He's a 6th year senior at Oregon, transferring from South Carolina. Had 4 years there. One was a redshirt his freshman year. He averaged 16 a game. He was a great scorer for Oregon this year. But this particular March, Couisnard has been playing 6 years of college basketball. He scored 39 at Arizona on March 2nd. He scored 40 in the first NCAA tournament game against South Carolina 2 days ago, and then he had 32 tonight. This is coming from nowhere. It's just like he decided. So it's like someone tapped him on the shoulder when March hit, and they were like, Jermaine, you're out of eligibility. I know it feels like you could play forever. You can't. This is it. This is your last ride. The next time you lose, you might be done. And he was like, oh, fuck that then. I'm not going to lose. I'm just going to go average like 40 points a game. I fell in love with this Oregon run. It was magical. They fought like hell to just get this far, and they beat a very good South Carolina team and then took a very good Creighton team to the wire. Maybe should have won the game. But kudos to Creighton, man. They're very, very fired up about what we saw from Creighton tonight because, again, they didn't even play well. And that's part of why you would be excited about it is because Creighton, not always with this team, but a lot of time, like Greg McDermott has had a hell of a run at Creighton and is starting to, I think, nationally get his recognition. They've had some hiccups in the NCAA tournament in the past. Last year they go to the Elite Eight. This year I did feel, for what it's worth, like this team maybe wasn't quite as good as last year, and like maybe they missed the pieces. I don't know if they missed Kaluma as much, but I'm watching Ryan Nembhard at Gonzaga, and for a lot, we'll get to Gonzaga in a second, but at Gonzaga he's not killing it for a lot of the year. There's like long stretches where he's not as good as we were hoping he'd be, and Creighton's not quite as good as I was hoping they'd be, and I'm like, man, what went wrong there? Why didn't he just stay at Creighton and they could have gone back to the Final Four? But yeah, during the stretch of Greg McDermott basketball, I've felt oftentimes like when they're hitting, they're awesome, and when they're not, there's a lot to be desired from Creighton. And tonight was a feather in the cap for the idea that Creighton doesn't just have to hit. I mean, how many threes did they hit? They ended up, by the time the game ended, they actually were shooting pretty well. They ended up hitting, well, never mind. They hit 15 threes in this game. But I was about to say it's not like they need to hit 15 threes in a game to win, but this did go to double overtime. They got very hot late. But yeah, what a game. This was the game of the tournament. Just from start to finish, there was no big leads until the second overtime when Creighton finally pulled away. Back and forth the whole game. Two teams going about it two very different ways, and Oregon is an 11 seed, so it's sort of, if you're obsessed with just the seeding, this did feel like a big shocker maybe if they pull off the upset. But, I think people that are paying attention to this Oregon run and this Oregon team and how hot Couisnard is and Dante is realized it wasn't really fluky, which I think like actually helps elevate the game, that you got a sense that these are just two really, really good teams playing each other in the round of 32 in a game that felt like it should have been played later in the tournament. So Creighton moves on. What a game. It was kind of what we needed. Today, again, do not want to say it was bad. Do not want to say it was boring, but I think we do live in a time where, you kind of – the internet is really good at like condensing down the best moments of events and then giving you all the highlights. And with that, I feel like through the years, there's an idea going into March Madness is that it's just going to be buzzer beater after buzzer beater. And oh my God, there was a massive upset. Now there's a buzzer beater, and this one's going to overtime. Now this is and it feels that way because you take all the highlights of March Madness, you put it into a nice 3-minute video, and you throw it out there, and we watch that, and we're like, oh yeah, dude, March Madness is the best because there's buzzer beaters and all that shit. But then you get in it, and you're like, yeah, there's some games that are good, some are not, some you don't even watch a second of, like Illinois Duquesne. By the time you pay attention to it, Illinois is up by 30. And you're like, all right, well, I don't need to watch that one. I'm going to focus my attention on this. And it ebbs and flows, but yeah, today did not have the fireworks per se. There was NC State Oakland, which we'll talk about next, but there wasn't really a big holy shit type game other than that, and that one feels a little different because it's two double-digit seeds, and it doesn't feel like one team's supposed to be here and one team's on the miracle run. They're kind of both on the miracle run. So, I feel like we needed this two-overtime game. To end the night on that was incredible, and the juices are flowing, and I'm very excited for tomorrow and for the rest of this tournament. So, shout out to Creighton. I do really enjoy this Creighton team. I picked Oregon to advance. I thought Oregon would get the job done. It was nothing against Creighton, though. I don't know. I've loved this group that they've had for the last few years, and I just worried that after last year going to the Elite Eight, maybe they were satisfied with that, and maybe that was like getting over the hump. So to see them claw this out and just hit big shots, and to see Stephen Ashworth, dude, like he was a guy this year I wasn't really super critical of, but I think that like part of the reason it felt like Creighton wasn't living up to the potential was that you lose Ryan Nembhard, and Stephen Ashworth is a big transfer for them, and he wasn't as awesome as I think they were expecting. And boy, the last month or so, I don't know where we draw the line of when it started, but like every time I watch Creighton now, he's balling out, and he's every bit as good as they were hoping he would be. So Creighton is very, very dangerous, obviously, and I'm fired up to see more Creighton basketball in my life. The game of the night before this game happened was the Jack Golke funeral.
Sad.
What a run from this guy. It was magical. It was magical. There's no other way to put it. He plays 42 minutes off the bench, TJ.
Why doesn't he start? I don't. He was like in street clothes on the bench.
I have no idea. The guy who started for him, I have not watched a lot of Oakland basketball this year. They opened the season, I think, against Ohio State, and I do remember that game because I was shitting my pants that we had a tough time beating them to start the season. But I didn't really watch a ton of Oakland basketball after that. The guy who started in Golke's place played 3 minutes, then Golke comes in for him, and then Golke never comes out of the game. And that guy got a $3 trillion. So I don't know. I don't know what the rationale was. I don't know if he was like if Campy was trying to throw a curveball at NC State and make it seem like Golke wasn't playing. I have no idea. But yeah, he captivated him and Couisnard. It's easy to say now, but we talked about this last year with Marquise Noel because he didn't make a Final Four, and I remember talking to you about like, do you have to get over the hump and make a Final Four if you want to be a true March legend? Because I do think that we remember Ali Farouk Manesh for specific shots. But the way you talk about Ali Farouk-Manesh is very, very different from the way you talk about Kimball Walker. And obviously Kimball Walker won a national championship, but like if you can carry a team to a Final Four, you are there are levels to this. Like Ali Farouk-Manesh he hit that one shot that one time. Marquise Noel was on his way last year to becoming icon, god, whatever word you want to use. And then he fell short of the Final Four. I remember talking to you about like, damn, that sucks. Do you think like we'll remember? I think we will. I think in the end we will, but I don't really know. That's how I feel watching Couisnard and Golke go out tonight. It's like, damn, they lost in the second round. And as I sit here right this second, I'm like, I will never forget either one of these guys in the NCAA tournament. But I also am looking down at the bracket, and there's a lot of bracket left to fill in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll probably forget them.
I think Golke has cemented himself. I think winning a game is super helpful. Like something I said before the tournament started is that like there's two Big Ten guys, one of which will be like remembered, Boo Buie and Kasai Tominaga.
Yeah.
Kasai Tominaga should have been a March Madness legend. I think by not winning a game, he will end up not being a March Madness legend. Like he was like, that was a guy that was destined to be one and didn't win a game, so he won't. Golke won a game and made 10 threes in it, so I think that he's. I
think you're right, and I think if you do it against Duke or Kentucky, you do get the
definitely
bonus.
Helps.
You get the
bonus
because Derek Williams is a guy that comes to mind as a March Madness legend, and Arizona did not make the Final Four that year, but he's a legend in my mind because of what he did to Duke and Kyrie Irving in 2011, and also had a monster game against UConn when they beat him too. So. Yeah, Golke will be remembered. It's just like it was setting up to be. There's a difference between being remembered and being like worshipped, Yeah. And we'll remember him, but unfortunately, they get bounced by NC State. Who magical run continuing for NC State. Just a balanced approach. DJ Burns has become. That was the weird part about this game is like DJ Burns is a darling. He's captivated the country through the ACC tournament run, 5 games in 5 days. And NC State obviously beats Texas Tech rather easily in the first round. And then now they're matched up with Oakland, but then Oakland captures our hearts too with Golke and taking down Kentucky and maybe ending John Calipari's reign in Lexington. And pitting those two guys together was very weird because I was cheering for them both. But then by the end, I think I was cheering for Oakland because they were more of the Cinderella.
Yeah.
But also now that NC State won, I'm actually not mad at all because I'm like, this is pretty cool too that NC State's now won 8 games in a 7
games in 12 days.
7 games in 12 days. 7 games in 12 days, and a
lot of money for their head coach in bonuses.
Dude, he was fired. He wasn't on the hot seat. Kevin Keatts was not on the hot seat. Kevin Keatts was fired. He was a dead man. If the season would have been, if NC State, if that shot doesn't go down, if Virginia fouls, if that shot doesn't go down against Virginia just fouls. Kevin Keatts is fired. He as of right this second, I don't think he would be the coach of NC State. Yeah. And Virginia didn't foul, and because of it, Virginia had to play in the play-in game, and we all watched it, and that's crazy, absolutely crazy. But DJ Burns is so good because obviously he's got touch, he's got skill, he's got the big body he can throw around, but Oakland was throwing double teams at him all night, and he was just so good at reading them when they're coming and kicking them out to shooters and setting up his teammate. Like Michael O'Connell I think he hit 3 threes tonight, 4 threes. He was hot. They're playing great basketball, obviously, because they're winning, but they're also just it's a team effort. 5 starters in double figures. Yeah, shout out to NC State. Game of the night, going into overtime. Golke did all he could. Trey Townsend, by the way, was awesome too. Watching this game in the gambling cave with all the guys that had all the Golke prop bets and whatever, they were screaming for Golke, and rightfully so. He is quite a character. He's 17 shots from the field, all 17 from behind the three-point line again. He takes the most insane threes you've ever seen.
Hucks.
He's airballing. He airballed a couple, and Jerry at a couple when he airballs him, Jerry's like, "Oh, he's done. He's done." And then the next one he hits, And like I was like, Jerry, no matter how many and I know Jerry's just saying that because if you say it's over, if you say it's done, it's like a reverse jinx thing. But no matter how many times it feels like, oh, okay, well now he's done, he just would always come back until the end, I guess, because he was short on all 3 of his final shots there. What just a fun team, and we'll remember the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. I think I just don't.
Yeah.
I just don't. I wanted more though. I wanted more of this ride. Elsewhere, the other fun game of the night, Tennessee. I shouldn't say fun. The other close game of the night, Tennessee, Texas, and the Rick Barnes matchup. The Rick Barnes revenge tour here, because he beats his old team. Disgusting display of basketball. In the same way that I was I was happy that Tennessee won this game in this way, but like I have the same sort of feelings towards Tennessee's win as I did Creighton's, where like it didn't really feel like they played well, but it was still as good to see them gut this out. Now the difference is like Tennessee through the years has played disgusting basketball, but this was the exact recipe for Tennessee Rick Barnes' failure in March. This is exactly what the game looks like. The people that believe Rick Barnes does not know what the hell he's doing in March point to a game like this where instead of Tennessee winning by 4, Texas made a couple plays down the stretch and Texas wins, and then we all laugh at Rick Barnes. Tennessee's 3 for 25 from the three-point line. Dalton-Knecht, who I love, had 18 points, and in the end his box score looks not that bad. He has 18 points, 9 boards, was 5 of 18 from the field. He was 1 for 8 from 3. That doesn't look that great, but it doesn't look like he had an abysmal game. But those of us watching were like, yeah, this is an abysmal game from Dalton-Knecht. Ices the game at the free throw line. Shout out to Big T, who came on this program and told me that Dalton-Knecht in a late spot is going to go to the free throw line and fuck it all up. And then he goes up to the free throw line and ices the game with 4 straight. But that's neither here nor there. I was fired up about Tennessee pulling this off because just kind of what I said about Creighton, but Tennessee played even worse. And I do think there's something to be said about teams playing disgusting, terrible basketball. I don't necessarily think that you can just, if you're Tennessee or Creighton for that matter, I don't necessarily think that you can just assume that next game you're going to play better and, oh, good thing we got that one out of the way. That is not how this works. It's not like you can just, let's just flush that, because I'm sure the next game when we play Creighton, if you're Tennessee, it's not like you can just say the next game when we play Creighton in the Sweet 16, we're going to hit everything now because we're due, and we went 3 for 25, so that means next game we're going to go 15 for 25. But it is a good sign if you can play like shit. This month is about surviving and advancing, and this was a brutal basketball game from an offensive standpoint. But Tennessee, this is why I feel like this Tennessee team is different. Because Dalton-Knecht does make them different. Now, he was not good shooting the ball from 3. He was not electric. He was not the cold-ass white boy we have all come to love this season. You were not texting your buddies to turn on the TV because Dalton-Knecht was cooking. What he was, though, was a guy that they could give him the ball to he was a guy that was back-cutting guys and dunking on them in the end. And he gave him a wrinkle where Texas is still worried about Dalton-Knecht, even though he's not hitting. I don't know. Like Dalton-Knecht's presence on the floor makes a difference. And at the end of the day, he had 18 points. They had 3 scores in double figures. Awaka and Adu were the others. No, the guards were terrible for Tennessee tonight on offense. And that's the difference. That's why you have that guy. And why you believe in Tennessee is because they can muck it up with the best of them, and we might see a lot more Tennessee games like that. Every game they play in for the rest of this tournament might look like this. The difference between the past few years and this year is Dalton-Knecht can be a difference, and he doesn't need to be a difference in the way that he scores 35 points and he's playing like Golke or Kuznard. He can do that, but that's not what they need out of him. What they need out of him is little moments here and there. When the rest of the roster, when Zakai Ziegler, I love him to death. When Zakai Ziegler starts missing shots, it snowballs. It's not his night. He can feel it. Everybody can feel it. It just sort of becomes a thing with him. Dalton-Knecht could miss 1,000 shots in a row, would not even know. I don't even think he would notice or care. I think he's just like, I'm a robot programmed to get buckets. So even if he's not having a great game, when those moments arise and it's time to draw up something because we need a bucket here, to have him there makes all the difference in the world for Tennessee. And that's the positive takeaway in a game where it didn't feel like there was much positive from Tennessee. In fact, Big T, I watched the entire game with him, TJ. He clapped, and I'm not shitting you. He clapped and smiled for exactly 3.8 seconds of this game. That was it. And it was the last 3.8 seconds of the game. Tennessee was up by 10 seemingly most of the game, and he was just like, we're going to fuck this up. We're going to fuck this. This is what we do. We're going to fuck this up. I'm like, you're up 10. What are you talking about? He's like, we're going to fuck it up. We're not hitting anything. And he was kind of almost right. But
it's realism.
Dalton-Knecht, in the end, hits the free throws, and Tennessee marches on. What else? Iowa State. Iowa State looks great, man. The defense against Washington State is as good as it's always been. Iowa State's defense. Washington State was 5 for 23 from the 3-point line. Iowa State is obviously dialed in on the defensive end. I don't know what. I haven't updated my KenPom rankings. I know them in Houston were flipping back and forth between 1 and 2, but Iowa State is obviously great defensively. As I've said recently, the belief in Iowa State at a time when, as Jake pointed out, like how much should we be believing in a 1 or a 2 seed that was an unranked preseason? And Iowa State fans might say, why does that matter? Well, the reason that matters is, and I say this lovingly, I'm not trying to poke holes in the team that is Iowa State. It's just the reality. Iowa State does not have the top tier talent leading them. I think they have great players. I think the culture at Iowa State is obviously very good. And they play great team defense, but it's a team offense approach. And Lipsey and Gilbert are great guards, and I think they're both all first team Big 12. But they're not dudes that are, they're not dudes that are lighting it up. They're not. I would be absolutely stunned if we see Lipsey or Gilbert have 30-plus point games in this NCAA tournament. But that's not what Iowa State needs. But because of that, because it's more of a team approach on both ends of the floor, there is more reluctance to believe in Iowa State if you're, for the general public, I would say, with the rest of the 1 and the 2 seeds. Now, that's the part that doesn't sound so nice. The part that is nice and the part that is starting to make me believe in Iowa State is the defense was always going to be there. It's very easy for teams to play or teams that don't have a ton of lottery picks up and down the roster. It's very easy for them to be defensive oriented and lock in and pull it all together. We've seen teams like that through the years. What you worry about with Iowa State is their offense, and the offense is coming along great. The offense is they had 14 assists on 23 made field goals. It is a very, very balanced approach. Everybody that sees the floor seemingly scores. And yeah, that's what makes them difficult to stop is you don't know where it's coming from. And yes, a lot of times it is better to have one guy. When in a situation like Tennessee, they badly need one guy. They need one guy that they can throw the ball to and please save us. They've needed that. Iowa State doesn't need that, and maybe it doesn't go well against Illinois in the Sweet 16. I don't know. I don't know what the end of this story looks like, but I'm slowly talking myself in the idea of Iowa State being able to go on a Final Four run, even though the draw they have ahead of them is going to be very, very difficult. I'm fired up to see Illinois' offense against Iowa State's defense. Illinois' offense is – I didn't watch tonight. I didn't need to. I know what happened. I'm going to go ahead and guess. In fact, I haven't even looked at the box score. I'm going to go ahead and guess that Terrence Shannon had like 25-plus. Marcus Damask probably had like 15-plus. I'm going to guess Damask had like 7 assists. Let me pull this up. Let me see how right I was. Maybe Damask played like ass. Shannon had a great game because Shannon's like absolutely dialed the fuck in right now. Terrence Shannon had 30. Marcus Damask had 20. Marcus Damask did have 7 assists. I swear to God, I didn't watch a second of Illinois Duquesne, and I hadn't looked at the box score. Terrence Shannon had 30, and Marcus Damask had 22. I just of course they did. Of course they're both playing out of their minds. And Illinois looks so good, man. I do think in fact I know because Illinois fans were tweeting at me, and I don't know why they're yelling at me. I don't know how I became like an enemy of Illinois Twitter, but it sort of happened tonight, I guess. They're yelling at me that they have the number 1 offense on KenPom right now, and I believe it. Terrence Shannon had 30. He is playing as well as anyone offensively in the country right now, and is absolutely a takeover guy. Damask is very, very good as well. Coleman Hawkins, the talent is there. I think the defense is not as bad as it's made out to be. I do think there are lapses of Illinois' defense that aren't great. I do think that they make it harder on themselves sometimes, and they're not always connected. But with the way they're scoring the basketball, I do think Illinois has been playing defense well enough to win a national championship. They're going to have to really tighten it up now as we get into the later rounds, because I think this is why Illinois, now that I think about it, this is why Illinois fans are mad at me, TJ. I pointed out on part of my take that Illinois has not beaten a currently ranked team, which is true. They haven't. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. It's just like kind of gives me pause. Like when you learn information like that, Illinois is beating the fuck out of teams. They went down 10 to every team. They were down 9 in the first round against Moorhead. They were down 10 in every round in the Big Ten tournament, and it doesn't matter. Their firepower is so strong. They can pull away. They can be. I don't even know what they would have to be down for me to think that the game is over. But what I'm worried about is just like they against the top teams in this country that they played, and they played a handful of them. They haven't won. They just haven't beaten the top tier teams. And so now we get to see that against Iowa State, and I'm fascinated by the matchup because it's two different approaches to the game. Iowa State's defense is incredible. Illinois' offense is incredible. I kind of just want Illinois to take the ball every time. I think that should be the situation. Illinois is on all-time offense, and if Iowa State gets a stop, they get a point or two or something. We figure out how many points they should get for a stop, and I just want to watch Iowa State guard Illinois. I think that's going to be so fun to watch. But yeah, Illinois has the star power. Iowa State doesn't. Iowa State has been the better team, I think, throughout the season. And now we get to see Illinois. If Illinois can beat a team that is one of the top tier teams in this country, I think they can. Illinois fans certainly think they can. I was just pointing out that they haven't, and that's I don't know. This is a big moment for Illinois basketball. Back in the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2005, which I've pointed out on the show a few times, and I think Illinois fans took that as me talking shit when it was in fact not. But some would say maybe that's an inferiority complex shining through. TJ. What else? The Blue Bloods. We could talk about them. We haven't talked about them. I hate that I called them Blue Bloods. Now that I'm looking at it, I just realized I kind of grouped Arizona and Gonzaga in with the Blue Bloods. The really good teams, the teams we're used to seeing win, whether you want to call them Blue Bloods or not. So Carolina, Gonzaga, and Arizona won the first. I think it was the first 3 games we saw today. Certainly, Arizona and Gonzaga were the first 2, and then Carolina was third. Right? They beat Michigan State in the third one. I'll just
Dayton
go in.
Was first. Yeah.
Dayton, Arizona was first. Right? I'll go in order. So Arizona, Dayton, Arizona red hot out of the gate. The defense deflecting all sorts of passes. Dayton couldn't get anything going. Dayton, it wasn't they were forcing turnovers, but it was also just like guard-to-guard passes or getting fingertips on them and kind of slowing down the rhythm of Dayton's offense. Jaden Bradley was incredible defensively for Arizona all game. And then Dayton turns to that press at the end of the first half to make a game of it. And, I mean, they did. I never really felt like Arizona was in any sort of jeopardy of losing the game, but Dayton did sort of make it interesting. And I found it fascinating because Arizona is a team that likes to push tempo, and I think when you see a team that likes to play as fast as Arizona likes to play, you would assume that pressing them is not the move because they are comfortable playing up tempo. And the opposite was true. Like Arizona got pressed and they looked absolutely rattled for long stretches of this game, and I think it's because Arizona. There's a difference between being the Arizona likes to push tempo when they're the ones pushing the tempo. When they're having the tempo pushed on them, they don't love it, and that's what we learned today from Dayton. So shout out to Dayton for not really going away and trying to make a game of it, but way too much firepower from Arizona. Kylan Boswell was MIA, and again, I was never really worried that Arizona is going to lose this game, which kind of speaks to how deep they are. To have Jaden Bradley and KJ Lewis come off the bench, who I think they're the best 2 guards off the bench in college basketball, probably outside of Lexington, Kentucky, which I don't even know if Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd count anymore because they're out of the tournament. So to bring those 2 guys off the bench, the depth is incredible. Caleb Love had some moments in this game where it felt like he was a chucker. And I'm still trying to figure out why, when I watch Caleb Love, I feel like he's got that chucker gene in him because last year he did. This year, like, if you would have asked me what Caleb Love was from the field today, I would have said like 6 of 25. He was actually just 6 of 15. He didn't have that bad of a game. There's just something about like the shots he takes and the moments he takes them. But it's not unique to him. That's how that team plays. They all have green lights. They all like to push. Tommy Lloyd is a coach that believes if you're open and you're capable of shooting, shoot the ball. If you're a guy who can shoot threes and you have an open 3, don't think about it. Rise up and make the shot. But for some reason, when Caleb Love does that, I think he's getting too aggressive shooting the ball. And when other guys on Arizona do it, I don't really make a note of it. But yeah, he's been way more efficient this year than last year. It's just maybe it's just because like he still does have games like where he goes 1 for 10 or 2 for 11 or something, or maybe it's I don't know. He doesn't get to the line a ton, so like maybe that's it. He just settles for a lot of jump shots. I don't know. I was trying to figure that out because I'm watching Caleb Love and I'm like, dude, is he gonna shoot them out of the game? And then the game ends and he actually had a good game, and I was like, why did I think that was? Why is that his reputation? It was last year. Last year that was absolutely the case, but maybe that's what it really is. It's just like the reputation has sunk in, and we can't get out of I can't get that out of my head. Yeah, Dayton, hell of a run, winning the one game against Nevada. That was a great comeback, and they made the game close against Arizona. And the Dukes cry. Did we get it? Did we get confirmation one way or another?
There was a clip where he was like, "I'm actually not that big of a sports crier." I was like, okay, but I don't know if he cried on camera. I didn't see any tears on camera. He was very upset about it though.
Yeah, rightfully so. Yeah, I would imagine so. Once you've cried when you won the game, I think you've now worked yourself into a position where you believe you're going to win every game. And Arizona is the far better team, and Dayton really didn't. Man, I don't need to say that. Dayton wasn't that good of a team, as it turns out. They had some dudes, and they could shoot, but they just like down the stretch, they just like weren't playing great basketball. And to make it to the round of 32 is kind of an accomplishment for this team in the end, which is not where I thought we would be with Dayton halfway through the season. I felt like they really had something special going. Kind of fell apart towards the end, but they salvaged it, and they made a game of it against Arizona in the second round. So there's that. Second game of the day, Gonzaga, as first reported by Jake Marsh on the show last night, ran away from Kansas. Absolutely ran away from Kansas. They win by 21. First half, fun game. It's two jerseys that people are familiar with. It's a lot of scoring, and in that regard, it was a good game, quote unquote. The defense on both sides of the ball was absolutely atrocious, and that was basically because of Hunter Dickinson on both sides of the ball. Hunter Dickinson in a pick and roll for Kansas, absolutely deadly. Hunter Dickinson in the pick and roll guarding it when Gonzaga had the ball, and Nembhard is coming off of ball screens. Absolutely deadly. Cannot move his feet. Hunter is. I'm not even talking shit at this point. I'm just pointing out the reality. That was brutal to watch. I have become accustomed to Hunter Dickinson not being able to guard ball screens, and watching that today was absolutely brutal. So yeah, Gonzaga had their way with Kansas, and it was a very, very weird Kansas season that somehow flew under the radar. Kansas is the preseason #1 team in the country. Hunter was talking all that shit. Kansas just got cleared by the NCAA, and there was a feeling, probably just from like Missouri and Kansas State fans, but there was a feeling that maybe the 2022 banner will have to come down. Maybe Bill Self will get slapped with all sorts of sanctions. Maybe this, maybe that. We find out nothing's going to happen. Kansas gets a slap on the wrist. It's setting up for them to be the bad boys of college basketball this year. They're the preseason #1. They get Hunter Dickinson in the portal. It all makes sense. It's all trending towards Kansas being the villains. And then, like, halfway through the year, they just kind of went away. It's just like it wasn't even a talking point. It was so weird to me. Just a very bizarre content year from Kansas. Like, last year, North Carolina's tumultuous season as the preseason #1 that's all we talked about. If you had nothing else to talk about, you would just talk about what's going on in Chapel Hill. How did this team that went to the national championship last year get so bad? And we didn't really do that with Kansas this year. I feel like people weren't really. It was just like, oh yeah, Kansas not that good. That's just all right. So they weren't that good. We thought they were going to be #1. They're just not that good. They lose to all 4 new teams in the Big 12. They have zero depth, obviously. I don't know. It was a weird roster construction, which I feel like I kind of called that at the start of the year, that I felt like there was a weird roster construction, but I don't necessarily want credit, but I do want to point out that like I felt this way going into the year, that this was going to be a weird Kansas season, and their offense was just so clunky. I keep using that word about it. It was just like so. They have pieces, like there are things to be excited about. It just didn't flow well together, and I don't know. It was a very, very weird year from Kansas, and making it even weirder is the last thing we saw from Kansas basketball in 2024 is Bill Self doing a press conference where he says for the last month he's been thinking about next year.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. Is Hunter Dickinson transferring? What a bizarre Hunter's a fascinating college basketball player. So accomplished, so productive, so good. I think if you pull Bill Self into a private room tonight and you ask him, like, do you want Hunter Dickinson on your roster next year? He's going to say no, and it's not because of the troll, like, it's not because Hunter's a villain or whatever. He can't play defense. He was absolutely a liability, and I don't think what he brings offensively to the team is worth what he gives up on defense. And yet at the same time, he's a multi-time All-American and averages 20 and whatever rebounds, and he's so freaking good. It's a bizarre situation. I don't know what that means. We're looking forward to next year. I assume they're going to get the kid from that committed to Indiana that decommitted, and I assume that just because anybody that's affiliated with Adidas in any way, shape, or form, that's a 5-star recruit is going to Kansas. So I assume they're going to get him. But yeah, I don't know what he means by we're looking forward to next year, and I don't know why you would say that. That felt like something like he was thinking and he just said out loud, and then he had to have been like, did I just say that out loud? Like, what the fuck?
That feels like something that like leaks from a private conversation.
Right.
Bill Self has reportedly been looking at next year.
He was burnt out on this year and realized this team wasn't going anywhere, and he's been more setting his sights on next year. But anyway, that's the Kansas part of it. The Gonzaga part, I'll say this: something changed in Lexington, Kentucky when they went there, and I was banging the drum on the idea of Gonzaga being a bubble team this year, and then the switch was flipped, and now you look up and they're a 5 seed, and part of me is like, why did I ever think this team was a bubble team? I went back and I looked. We were right to believe they were a bubble team. Something changed in Lexington, Kentucky, and I have proof for it. So I have proof of that something had changed. So here are 4 players I would like to draw attention to. You have Ryan Nembhard and Graham Ike, who are the 2 big transfers they get. Nembhard, obviously, from Creighton. We talked about him already. And Ike from Wyoming, transfer into Gonzaga. They are the 2 best players on the team. They aren't the only 2 good players, but those are the 2 guys that I think coming into this season, if you talked yourself into Gonzaga being a national title contender, you point to those 2 guys as the reason why. That was reason 1A and 1B. We got Ike and Nembhard in the transfer portal. They're going to carry us, and we're going to add them to this infrastructure we already have with Nolan Hickman and Anton Watson and the rest of these guys. And Ike has been up and down through the year. He's the leading scorer on the team. His averages are great. He's had his moments, but throughout most of the season he's been up and down. In the 11 games leading up to the Kentucky game, he had 3 games. 3 of the 11 games, Graham Ike scored fewer than 10 points. Those 3 games are because he was in foul trouble. He is a big foul trouble guy. Like, this is a problem moving forward, especially if Purdue wins tomorrow and Graham Ike has to guard Zach Edey. Don't really love that matchup. Don't love the idea of a foul-prone guy being matched up with a guy who does nothing but draw fouls, but whatever. In the 11 games since the Kentucky game, which includes the Kentucky game, Gonzaga has played 10 games since Kentucky, and we'll throw the Kentucky game in there. In that 11-game window, he's had zero games of fewer than 10 points. He has always been a good scorer, but it's been up and down throughout the year. And something in Kentucky has just leveled him out to where he's been a more consistent, productive guy, and he's just consistently delivering for Gonzaga. Ryan Nembhard, meanwhile, 23 in the 23 games leading into the Kentucky game. This is crazy. Ryan Nembhard had 1 double-digit assist game. One out of 23 games where he had 10 or more assists. He was averaging 5.8 assists per game for this Gonzaga team as the point guard. In the 11 games, which again includes Kentucky, the 10 games plus the Kentucky game, at this point in the season, Ryan Nembhard has had 6 double-digit assist games. He is averaging 9.4 assists per game in the last 11 games at this end of the season stretch that we're on. He went from averaging 5.8 assists per game to 9.4. It's insane. He's spraying the ball around. The offense is clicking in at a level that it previously wasn't. Nolan Hickman is shooting 50% from the three-point line since the Kentucky game, including the Kentucky game. He was shooting 38% before then, which is not bad. I don't mean to suggest that Nolan Hickman couldn't hit a broadside of a barn. It's more that, like, in these last 11 games, he cannot miss. Nolan Hickman is absolutely dialed in, shooting 50% from 3. Ben Gregg is shooting 45% from 3 since the Kentucky game. Kansas, who was overrated, yada, yada, yada. Gonzaga's back in the Elite Eight or the Sweet 16, I should say, for the 9th year in a row. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And I don't care what the context is. For you to beat a team that's won 30 games and then to beat a team that was preseason number 1, still had a good year, still has an All-American and Hunter Dickinson on the roster, and DeJuan Harris is one of the best point guards in the country. I mean, they beat him handily. Yeah, I don't know what happened at Kentucky, but something definitely happened, and yeah, Gonzaga moves on, and I think the Midwest is shaping up to be just as good as we were hoping to be. Purdue, Gonzaga, Creighton, and Tennessee. Again, it's 4 programs. We said this when the bracket came out. 4 programs that are known for quote unquote choking in March, and whether that's fair or not, like that seems to be the reality. I think Gonzaga has done more than enough to shed that label. Gonzaga's problems are never in the early rounds; it's more in the later. But yeah, Creighton's never been to a Final Four. Tennessee's never been to a Final Four. Purdue hasn't been since 1980. Yeah, and Utah State is there too. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that Utah State has never been to a Final Four. But if I'm gonna be a guy that's just saying shit, I better have some stats to back that up. We can entertain the idea of Utah State winning tomorrow. Yeah, Utah State's been to 2 Elite Eights, 1939 and 1970. They've never been to a Final Four, so that's where we're at. And Gonzaga obviously has been to 2 Final Fours, but never won a national title. Midwest is shaping up to be very, very fun. Finally, the North Carolina Tar Heels are a fucking wagon right now. Playing great basketball. It's good to see. The NC State ACC championship was a bummer. Because obviously they got away from playing Carolina basketball, which is just winning, which is winning basketball games, I guess. But yeah, Carolina is the 17-0 run they go on to end the first half was, it was otherworldly. I mean that to me is what makes Carolina good. And not just this team, but Carolina basketball through the years is the ability to do that. It's they play so fast. They have so many guys that can beat you. R.J. Davis is obviously the guy that makes everything go, and Baycott is kind of the sidekick. But Harrison Ingram was awesome today, and I think he's the difference. And Cormac Ryan is All right, I'm thinking this through now, DJ. There's the X Factor and there's the glue guy. Harrison Ingram feels like the X Factor and Cormac Ryan feels like the glue guy. Now, the reason you say this is because Harrison Ingram is black and Cormac Ryan is white, and that has always been the rule, is that the white guy is the glue guy and the black guy is the X Factor. Now, I think with Carolina, a case could be made that their identities are flipped, because I also believe that glue guys do the dirty work and are great defenders and kind of do the things that don't show up in the box score, whereas the X Factors are the guy that can are the guys that can drop 20 points on any given night on you. Harrison Ingram's kind of both, I guess. But yeah, Cormac Ryan, I don't know. Cormac Ryan doesn't feel like a glue guy. He feels like an X Factor, and that's confusing because he's a white man. TJ, it's very confusing. The white guys are confusing me this year. We'll put it that way.
And I mean, nobody's talked more about the white guys than you.
The cold ass white boys have been. I'm having like a crisis with these cold ass white boys because it's hard to make sense of what roles they're supposed to be playing. But yeah, Cormac Ryan had 14. Harrison Ingram had 17. Very balanced approach. That is what makes Carolina good. Is the balance. That was the point I'm trying to make. Is R.J. Davis is the guy, and I'm reminded Baycott's also in these commercials, and everybody remembers him because he's been around for 1,000 years too. But when Carolina's at their best is when they have balanced attacks and they're pushing tempo, and they get in a situation like Michigan State looked really good for long stretches in this first half, but Carolina just kind of stays patient, knows who they are, and knows that in the end, if you just keep playing, talent is going to win out, and they certainly have more talent than Michigan State, and yeah, they look great. Carolina looks great again, and I very much said that Carolina was the weakest of the 4 1 seeds. I still kind of think that, but that kind of feels unnecessary to say. It's definitely a slap in the face because they took care of business and then some. On the Michigan State side of things, yeah, I never bought into this being a big year for Izzo. There's just something about this group of guys. I don't know. I said this last year and I felt it all this year as well. Tyson Walker is incredible. Tyson Walker is should hold his head up high for the career he's had and the year he's had, and he's an incredible guard. He's an incredible scorer. I don't know. Any good thing you could say about Tyson Walker, I'm going to say. But I'll also say he's tiny and he's limited at how good he can actually be. And with that in mind, I've always felt like this Michigan State team needs to plug in the actual star, and it feels like a star of role players, which sounds like an insult. It's not. I do think they have a lot of really, really good sidekick type guys, but they're all playing one level above what they should be playing. Jaden Akins is very good, but I don't think Tyson Walker and AJ Hoggard and Jaden Akins was ever going to work. That doesn't feel that feels like a bunch of dudes that are riding the wave of I don't know, a Miles Bridges or a Gary Harris or what. They needed that sort of dude to plug into this to take them to the next level, and I just never felt like they had that. I didn't feel it last year. I didn't feel it this year. It was just I've been uninspired by this group of Michigan State basketball players. And I guess in a perfect world, maybe Xavier Booker was going to be that guy. Maybe Jeremy Fears before, he was shot and was out for the entirety of the season after that. Maybe he was the guy. Maybe Cohen Carr. Maybe there was an expectation that one of these freshmen were going to be that guy that they could plug in and make Michigan State rise to that level. But I never really felt it. I never really saw it. Good for them for beating the hell out of Mississippi State in the first round, but I didn't see this as a choke job. I didn't see this as a failure of it. I just kind of never really bought Michigan State at any point in this season. So this felt right to me. I don't know. If you would have told me at the start of the year that Michigan State was going to be a 9 seed, lose to the 1 seed by 16 in the second round, I would be like, yeah, that feels appropriate for what this Michigan State team is. So yeah, now the West is shaping up to be very fun as well. The Midwest is pretty chalky. I know Gonzaga beating Kansas is a 5-4, but whatever. That's not much difference between the two. If Purdue does take care of business against Utah State, that is a very fun region. But the West, I think the West is going to be even more fun. I mean, the West, whether these teams are the best and whether these teams are legit national title contenders, I don't know. We thought the West would be the region of chaos. It still could be with Grand Canyon in the mix. But it's going to be very fun. I mean, North Carolina gets the winner of Grand Canyon or Alabama. All that athleticism on both of those teams, that is going to be a very fun game to watch tomorrow. And whoever wins playing against North Carolina, they're going to get up and down, and what a game that'll be. Carolina versus either one of those will be awesome. If Baylor can get past, Baylor, Arizona, the offense that's going to be on display in that game would be crazy. Clemson is a good basketball team as well. They don't play quite as fun a brand as basketball as Baylor and Arizona do, but yeah, Carolina moving on. I got really excited about what's happening in the West. So yeah, there's that to look forward to too. Couple thoughts on Dusty May, and then we'll get out of here. Before we do, I want to talk about Optimum Nutrition. Unlock more you with Gold Standard 100% whey by Optimum Nutrition. Everyone at every level needs protein. Unlock your recovery on the court or in the gym. 24 grams of high-quality protein, 11 grams of naturally occurring essential amino acids, 15-plus amazing flavors. Optimum Nutrition is proven performance nutrition for over 35 years. It has fueled billions of workout recoveries worldwide, and it is sold at stores nationwide or online at OptimumNutrition.com. Go get you some Optimum Nutrition in your life. What is that new flavor they got? Cinnamon roll?
Cinnamon roll.
Oh, my Lord. Cinnamon roll?
Yeah.
Dude, I just eat that for dessert. Sounds delightful. Just give me some Optimum Nutrition cinnamon roll. All right, we've talked about, I think we've hit most of the games. I think we've hit them all. Before we get out of here, Dusty May was hired to Michigan. And first of all, I'll say that's somewhere between shocker and very surprising. I don't know where I'm stunned. Is that fair to say? I am pretty stunned because it felt like Dusty May to Louisville was a done deal. It just felt like it was trending that way, and that seemed to be what everyone else thought. So for Michigan in the 11th hour to swoop in and get him is obviously great for Michigan. Michigan fans are fired up. I said this last night, so I'm not just saying this because he went to Michigan. You can go back and watch last night's show, and when I said it then. I do sort of feel like the premature anointing of Dusty May is curious to me. He had not a particularly noteworthy run at Florida Atlantic until last year. Now they were good last year. They won a ton of games last year in Conference USA, and they go on a Final Four run. But they beat Memphis in a controversial game. They beat a 16 seed. They beat Tennessee, who is very, very limited. I don't know. You can't diminish Final Four runs. Final Four runs are Final Four runs, but at the same time, like I'm always wary of putting too much faith in the coach that went on the deep March Madness run that one time when the rest of his body of work is not exactly awesome. And yeah, so this feels. Mike Rutherford texted me this when he thought Louisville was going to hire Dusty May. That he said it sort of feels like an Archie Miller to Indiana move, where Archie Miller had gone to an Elite Eight at Dayton, and Archie Miller had a skosh of success at Dayton, and Indiana's like, that's our guy. We got to get him, and they plug him in, and it did not work at all. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. I do not want my face in any clips. I don't want my voice on any recording saying that Dusty May is not going to work in Michigan. I don't believe that. I like Dusty May a lot, and plus I have a blood oath to myself and my father and my family and my state to back anybody from the state of Indiana in the world of basketball. So I'm a Dusty May guy, and it's going to be weird that he's at a rival school of my alma mater, but yeah, if I'm being objective, I do sort of wonder how we got to a point where he was considered a home run, no doubt about it, no-brainer hire based off of one Final Four run, which, yeah, Final Four runs are good, but, like, I think the smart coaches or the smart coaching hires, if you're going for a guy, if you are a school that's like, we want to get the home run guy or we want to get the guy that we're going to plug in and he's going to save everything, I think like a sustained level of success in conference play and a sustained, appearances in the NCAA tournament over, like, that is way more important to me than one or two good NCAA tournament runs. But a lot of people see it a different way and think that last year going to the Final Four is good. But to me, honestly, the FAU season this year kind of undoes all of that. I mean, FAU had no business being as bad as they were this year. They had no business losing the games they lost. It was always a wait until March. Then you'll see. Then the real us will show up. And then they didn't, and they lost to, or maybe they did. Maybe that was the real FAU the whole time. Was a team that was going to lose in the first round. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how it works out. I would not be surprised either way. I am just fascinated by the idea that like he was the guy and like everyone was fighting over Dusty May, which I guess just speaks to like the crop of coaches that are out there right now. That's why Ohio State ultimately hired Jake Diebler. Was like, why, if we're going to go get an up-and-coming guy, why don't we just take the guy that's on our bench already that everyone's very, very excited about right now? Like, if we're not going to take him, it's because we're taking a big swing and we're getting a guy who's established, but there don't really seem to be a ton of those out there, so why don't we just, keep it in-house? For Dusty May to be the guy, that was, the guy that everybody in the coaching search wanted. I didn't fully get it, but I do think he'll be good at Michigan, and I think that Michigan fans should be fired up. At least he's going to be better than Juwan Howard. I'll tell you that much. He will be better than Juwan Howard, and you have that to look forward to. What else? Kim Mulkey's story is breaking on Monday, TJ. I think it's breaking on Monday. I assume it's breaking on Monday. I think that's how the news works, unless they're going to do it.
Well, I guess we'll see because Kim Mulkey's threatening to sue.
She's threatening to sue, but I saw that clip today, and I got so excited about this because God only knows what this story is going to be. You can make up any story about Kim Mulkey, and I'd believe it. So from her perspective, the Washington Post has done just that. But, yeah, I am very much a Kim Mulkey hater, and I don't care what it takes, but I would love to see her just go through some sort of hell.
Yeah.
She sucks. She sucks so much, and I'm fired up about this. I'm like waiting for this like I'm waiting for this like the nerds waited for Dune 2. Like, I'm just sitting here just like waiting for the premiere. Like, I just want someone to say like on this date and this time we're gonna drop the story.
Yeah, they should do like a premiere. Yeah.
And I'm grabbing my popcorn and getting ready. And I assume it's Monday. Brandon and I were talking about it, and he said that maybe they're gonna do it when LSU tips off.
So that it would be during
the game. How crazy would that be?
Be awesome.
That would be pretty sick. Kind of unethical, I would say, from a journalism perspective, but
yeah, as hit pieces tend to be.
Yes, it is a hit piece, so whatever. But I don't know. They officially have my attention. When I think it was Pat Forty put the tweet out, that was like, there's a story brewing about Kim Mulkey. Keep your eyes peeled for this. I thought, okay, we'll see. You know, like I don't know why Pat Forty would be the one to say this. I don't know what the story is going to be, whatever. The fact that she addressed it in a post-game press conference after an NCAA tournament, she had a prepared speech that she just sat there and read, tells me it's going to be good. I don't know. That just like validated that there's something good. I don't know what happened. I'm not saying she's guilty or innocent or anything, but it tells me that there's actually something coming.
Right. Do you think
I know there's something coming.
Do you think it's just a collection of disgruntled past players and recruits or something?
I would have to believe.
Or do you think something actually happened that is going to break in a story?
I don't think it's criminal. I don't think it's like my read on it is like, yeah, it's probably this person has been talking to a bunch of past players that kind of didn't love her, but like felt like they had to go play for her because that was the best thing for their career. Or they had some sort of implicit pressure to play for her. But once they got to Baylor or LSU, they were like, this woman sucks. And they probably all like have stories about her or something. And nothing will really happen except guys like me that hate Kim Mulkey will have more things to point to as to why we hate her. And that'll basically be it, which is kind of all I want, you know? Like, I don't actually expect, like, a story to come out and then they, like, take her off in handcuffs at halftime of her next game or anything. Although that would be awesome. And if the Washington Post can make that happen, please do. I would love to see that. All right, I think we hit most everything else I wanted to. The Buckeyes are winning the NIT. Big win over Virginia Tech, and we are going to win the NIT, so there's that as well. And I'm excited to see that. Otherwise, I think that's it. Fun day tomorrow. Games I'm looking forward to. I think James Madison Duke's going to be a good one. If James Madison, the thing to watch, excuse me, I'm burping a lot tonight. I don't know what happened. I had a slice of pizza and it really just set the burps off. If James Madison plays defense like they did against Wisconsin, which is to say if they're very physical, and as is often the case with Duke, we're going to have to pay attention to the refs. If the refs call it like they did against Wisconsin, I feel very good about James Madison because I think this Duke team is soft. This Duke team is obviously way more talented than James Madison, way more talented, which is not a knock on James Madison. Don't take that the wrong way if you're a JMU fan. It's just Duke has an embarrassment of NBA guys on the roster. I do think they're soft, though, and I think if James Madison pushes them around, Kyle Filipowski gets banged around a little bit by Bickerstaff. Like I think James Madison can play this game on their terms, and they can make it very interesting. So I'm fired up to see how that one plays out. But also, I do think there's a world where James Madison plays very physical. They start calling ticky-tack fouls in the post because they're pushing guys around and blocking out a little too hard, and then they get very frustrated and it kind of snowballs from there, and Duke's talent wins out in the end. Colorado-Marquette is a game I'm very fired up about too. I think Colorado is loaded with talent. We were talking last night with Jake about that Tristan da Silva is so fun. He's become so fun to watch, and the Pac-12 is doing great in this tournament. I know Oregon just lost and Washington State just lost, but if you watch the games, like they got dudes and they can. Oregon certainly, someone had to lose that game. It didn't really. I don't think that was an indictment on Oregon, and Arizona looked great against Dayton. I think the Pac-12 is showing out a little bit in this tournament, and Colorado could lose tomorrow, and there could only be one Pac-12 team in the Sweet 16, and we might say Pac-12 sucks again. I don't really feel that way. I feel like the Pac-12 that we've seen in this tournament has been great, and I think Colorado is in a great position to give Marquette all they can handle. Grand Canyon, Alabama is going to be a ton of fun too. The athleticism in that game is going to be awesome. Northwestern, UConn is a game that I'm curious about. UConn should win easily, but Northwestern could be very, very pesky. Northwestern with Barnheiser and Langborn and Bowie, you have three guys that just I was talking last night with Jake about it. Like Bowie is a Kimba candidate. You know, he's one of those guys that you just point to and you're like, I don't think the team's necessarily that great, but you do have that one dude who can hit everything, who could be a Jermaine Couisnard or a Golke, you know, that just like I'm just determined to carry the team. But the way UConn's so dialed in right now, I don't actually expect Northwestern to pull the upset. One thing that I am enamored by here is Houston. Houston's almost a 10-point favorite. Am I reading this right? They're a 10-point favorite against Texas A&M. I feel like that's going to be a really good game. I feel like they already played this year, and Wade Taylor balled out and like has shown that he can score on this defense. And I say that as a guy that thinks Houston's going to win the national championship. But that game definitely, I think, as someone that would like to see Houston win it all, so I look smart, I am more worried about Texas A&M for Houston than I am James Madison or Duke. once they get past Texas A&M. This game would worry me more than what's waiting in the next round. So, a lot of fun games tomorrow. They're all fun. One last shout out to Kentucky fans who, if Colorado wins tomorrow, TJ, I don't know if you've paid attention to this twist of the knife. Colorado could very well win tomorrow. Kentucky fans are going to have another crisis where they look at the bracket and realize all we had to do was beat Oakland, then we would have had to play NC State, then we would have had to play Colorado, and we'd be in the Elite Eight. And if Texas A&M beats Houston, if A&M and Colorado win tomorrow, Kentucky fans are going to just have another meltdown all over again because the bracket would have broke wide open for them. And one Jack Golke said, "Not so fast."
Yeah, he's gonna watch me huck on the run.
Oh, really? The bracket's gonna break open? Watch this. I'm going to miss him, TJ. We got to hire him at Barstool. I told Dan on the stream we have to hire Jack Golke, and I think the way we announce the hiring is we do, instead of the free throw stream, we do a three-point stream. We see how many threes in a row we can hit as a company, and it's just Jack Golke. He's the only one shooting, and that's it. And it's just –
that's our threes guy.
We put it out to the public. Tune in on Monday. We are going to do a live stream until we hit 50 threes in a row using nothing but Barstool employees, and then everyone's like, oh, my God, Titus is – going to be exhausted again. I'm sure they're going to lean on him. And I don't touch a basketball. I just sit there and watch Jack Golke go off. And then we announce to the world Jack Golke now works at Barstool. He is our official three-point shooter. I would welcome that, by the way. As the resident shooter here at the company, I would very humbly step down off the throne and hand over my crown to Jack Golke if he did, in fact, want to work at Barstool Sports. Enough of that. Let's go to bed. We got a long day tomorrow full of basketball. Thank you to everybody watching and tuning in tonight live. Thank you to everybody listening or watching after the fact. I'll be back tomorrow night again, live, breaking down all the action. We will see you guys in.